Hey guys, so we've been talking about doing this podcast. We've tried a couple of versions of it and we never released it. This one's going to be different. So we decided to take a very non-AI approach to this and just kind of run with it. Very little editing, just in case I drop too many F-bombs or something, which is pretty unlikely because it's pretty rare. But the whole point of this podcast is to just kind of riff, because I'm in a lot of conversations with people, a lot of business owners. We just talk. We just talk about what's going on, what's working, what's not working, when we're being honest. And I want to encourage a lot more of those conversations. I think a lot of, largely I started off as a mortgage broker, real estate broker, managing people, learning how to get into the weeds and grow companies. Then we got into property management and co-hosting. And then I got my wife out of being a pharmacist. And actually, I didn't. She did. I just kind of prodded the agenda, and over time she got pretty comfortable with it, became pretty great. Now she quit pharmacy, and now she's running it. And that means you have, we're not Alex Hormozy and Layla, right? But we are busy living that life. We like to be inspirational. We probably don't post enough to be inspirational, but we're always trying to figure out, how to best help people, how to help our clients, how to keep our family ahead without losing ourselves, right? And when we see these podcasts, sometimes I kind of feel like they're just not hitting on the real stuff. They're not talking to you like a human. They're not being very open and transparent, the honest side of, like, sometimes you get your ass kicked. And we want to be a part of that side, the thing that we're not seeing as much. The anti-AI, I'll show you my best side first. I'm showing up in my workout shirt because I'm going to go work out after this, and I've been trying to handle issues all day after dropping off our kids at daycare. One more on the way in 3 weeks. Preparing my mind for it, clearly. But in all of that, this is going to be kind of a riff. I'm going to have some solo episodes. I'm going to have some guest episodes. When you hear me talk, I'm going to talk about something that's bugging me, something that's been hard, or maybe there's a win, but how we arrived at that win was far from textbook, and it was tough. And I want to share that side because I think we're missing that more than ever, that authentic thing out there. So hopefully you'll appreciate what we're doing, and I'm going to share a little bit more now. So here's the whole thing. Everyone's always talking about the cost of success, but we're not talking about the actual cost to change. And that is very expensive, and it's very hard. Sometimes it's free, but it is the hardest free you can do. The truth is, change costs more than any dollar amount you can spend. And most days, it's going to cost who you used to be. Like, who you are going to kill yourself figuratively and literally. Like, the person you've been will never be the same again. And that's the real journey of entrepreneurship. I'm telling you, I talk to my students about this all the time. Take like a 16 personalities test. I like that one over the DISC profile because it assigns a name, a value to whatever these 4 letters are, right? And the 4 letters, I always forget them because I'm frankly not smart enough to remember them or what they stand for. I probably could memorize it, but it's just not interesting enough to me. But as you actually get your title of what your 16 personality test represents about you, and you take it every 6 months to a year after you've become an entrepreneur, your decision-making skills, your approach to life, your approach to you in what your day-to-day decision-making is, it's completely different. When you realize that how you respond to everything is completely different, you realize you are a very new and different person. And I encourage that because every time that happens, you become a lot more confident, a lot more happy that you've kind of approached sides of your life that you've wondered if you could be successful in. Even when you fail. I've met business owners that have failed, and they're still happy they did it because now they know what's good for them or what they can do. And they don't have to have that, damn, could I have been good at this or not? What would the challenges have been? Now I know that if I ever came back to entrepreneurship, I would look out for, X, Y, and Z. And sometimes that is still you becoming a new person, but you're a better person for having done that. So what's this podcast? Well, welcome to The Bet. This is a podcast about what it really takes to build something real. I'm Matt McCall-Stillman, and if you know me today, you know that I've had some variation of 50 plus properties, the bulk of them being short-term rentals. I had a hotel, I had a brokerage, I had a mortgage company, have most of that stuff still. Just we've reworked it over time because we learn what's working better, or where we want to reposition our assets to have a better result, or just kind of feel better about the outcome. Because sometimes you realize I'm kind of sick of this type of asset or this type of business. Let me put my energy and focus over here instead, because entrepreneurship is adaptability. There is no way that you can be a successful entrepreneur without being able to wake up every day, get slapped about 100 times and go, yep, I want some more, bring it on. That's kind of what it is. And from all of that experience and all those slaps and all the interesting tests to make real estate great, I became a coach. I became a coach because I saw some coaches that were doing it well. I saw some coaches that weren't. And I kind of just felt like we could do something more authentic, more real. And so I said, let's try it. Let's just get out there. Let's bring the broker experience. Let's bring the mortgage experience. Let's bring our portfolio experience. And let's really pull people forward, not just say, yeah, here's my video course. Get after it. Good luck. I wanted to be there to help negotiate. I wanted to be there to talk about, how do you get the financing? How do you talk to a lender? How do you talk to another agent? How do you talk to a seller? And not be like, oh yeah, just read the script. Like, fucking scripts, man. Like, scripts bug me. Like, I feel like a lot of people go, oh, just it's a script. You have a gold script. A script is about as valuable as tissue paper, because if you don't use it for the right function, like to wipe your butt, then it's pretty worthless. And that's the thing, like with a script, if it's not in the hands of somebody that can pitch and sell and reason and relate to who you're, pitching, it doesn't matter. You can have the best words. You ever hear somebody try to repeat a joke that sucks at delivery? That's the issue. You have the funniest joke, but that same joke isn't the same. Like, I don't always love Kevin Hart. I think he's pretty funny, but if I actually try to do his jokes, people are like, dude, shut up. That's a terrible joke. Because it just doesn't hit the way I deliver it. I don't have the same voice, whatever that Kevin Hart voice is. I don't have it. But that's my point, right? How you go about these things is so critical. And we're going to kind of explore that in the bet. And I'm going to give you a little bit more background about who I am and why I'm even doing this. Because before I was what I am now, I was the king of getting my junk kicked in. I don't know if you saw that movie NPC, like non-playable character or something, Ryan Reynolds. I felt like that guy that could just be pushed around, get screwed. That's what I was here for. I actually started to believe that at my core, that some people are meant to win, some people aren't. And I was more in that category because that's just what we were getting. And I'm going to get into all of that, but I just want to kind of preface that this is for the people that were losers, are losers, and they think that they are just meant to be losers. And it doesn't mean you're a loser. It just means you haven't found the right gear. You haven't found the right application of your skills and your abilities. And I want to connect with those people. I want those people to know that, it hurt. It hurt growing up like that. It hurt thinking, damn, am I really just here to like show up to get my junk kicked in? Is that who I am? Is that destiny? Is that God? What is this thing? And I did believe that for a while, which is still kind of insane to me because it's a different world I'm in now. But I want this to connect, and I want to have that level of vulnerability in this podcast. So, like, frankly, if you haven't signed up for it, subscribe, like it, share it, because I want the rest of 2025, 2026 to be about who's being real. Like, who can be my tribe, the person I can talk to or understand. And like, I want to bring people on the show that are ready to be this level. Just kind of intimate, lights a little low, maybe a couple cool lights in the background. Yeah, I think they're cool. I hope you do too. But I want that. I want that because I'm kind of just sick of everything's so bright and perfect, because it's not. Real estate, business, it's not. It's not bright and perfect. Anybody that says it is wrong. And it's cool because you do want to make nice, cool videos and properties, and that's a part of the vibe you want to put out there. But when you're actually trying to connect and understand how you can get ahead or how others have, when you want to see or feel your own come up or see what other people have gone through to have that come up moment, the motivation posts, the wealth, the success, all the cool things people probably follow and look for, like, a little blip of joy from scrolling on Instagram to see, oh, that's cool, or that scene in that movie. Speaking of movies, Pursuit of Happiness. If I ever see anything about Pursuit of Happiness, I stop and I lock in, and I get the feels when I watch it, because it's that guy that if you met him today, you wouldn't have known what he went through, right? And you see him just go through it, trying to protect his kid, trying to buck up, getting his things that he was trying to sell, those computers or whatever they were, the diagnostic machines, those getting stolen, and he just feeling like he can't make ends meet, and he bets it all, big risk going for the stock brokerage, and boom, it's it. And again, here's a segue. This is how this will go when I'm rattling on alone without somebody to talk to. How I probably do that with people too. We'll see what happens, but that's the kind of stuff I want us to be hitting on. The stuff that kind of makes you go, I listened to that podcast. Every podcast I heard had that same demeanor that just made me go, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I think I can do it too. And I came from a family that largely was victim mentality, and it's still very present, and it's very tough to be around those conversations. And, I think there is a little bit of luck sometimes. I think there is a little bit of grit, and I don't know if it's more luck or more grit that gets you further, but I would say it's probably grit. Luck can be awesome, but I don't think I necessarily had that. But I think for the people, if you're the family member that's stuck and doesn't want to be stuck anymore, if you're that person thinking somebody's holding you back, you're probably right. And it's hard to let go of those relationships, because they're going to change, because you're changing and they're changing. And they always say the sum of your average people you hang out with is who you are. And it sure as shit is. And if you don't look at those people, and at least half of them don't inspire you, respectfully, as clear as I can say, you are fucking up. You have to change that. Doesn't mean they're not great people. Doesn't mean you can't still love them. But you will not grow if you stick with the same things that have not forced you to grow. You cannot do it. Change is only inevitable when you put yourself in a situation that requires change. You ever meet those people that are constantly doing the wrong thing for themselves? You go, damn, they just can't get ahead. They just keep doing this. They keep doing that same bad habit or whatever, or vice. I'm worried about them. They haven't changed their circle. They're not choosing to. And when you do, that's when the change happens. And I've had family, my brother actually, like, for a long time, he was stuck. And this last year, I saw him get unstuck, and I am rooting for him loud as possible, because you just see that moment where that person finally goes, oh my God, I'm sorry. I feel an emotion just talking about it, because I can see he used to think we were too different. He can never get ahead. He thought, oh, you're just lucky. You're the smarter brother, whatever, right? And when he would say that, I get so bummed. He's like, you want different things. You want all that cool, fancy stuff. And I was like, dude, if I could get that for you too, would you not want it? He goes, well, yeah. And I was like, okay, would you not want some freedom and some more travel? He goes, well, yeah. I'm like, why are we so different then? Like, why do we have to label us as so different before you can allow yourself to say, hey, I can change and I can be good too? We have a lot of the same DNA. We're half brothers. He's like, he doesn't feel like that to me, but I think the same for him. But it's this thing where he just turned 31, and it took him pretty much 31 years to figure out he doesn't have to be like that. And he's in a job he doesn't love, but he's getting the skills. He's starting to make some money. He's paying off his debts. He's getting back on track. And I'm just so proud of him. And he's doing stuff he's never done before. He's stuff that he feels like he's not smart enough to do. And when you see that people are pushing themselves because they didn't have a choice, that's when you know the requirement to change was so great. Because 2 years ago, he kept saying, I'm at rock bottom. I can't get any worse. And I was like, well, nothing's changed. And he was like, screw you. And I'm like, dude, I know I sound like a jerk to you, but when it's that bad and there's nothing to do but change, that is rock bottom. And a lot of people get that confused. If you haven't changed yet, you haven't been kicked in the junk hard enough yet. I mean, you just can't keep lying to yourself. That's what you have to understand. And I'm so proud of him for finally getting to that understanding. I'm doing a lot of segues here, but that's kind of what this is about. This is going to be stories and moments and reflections and stuff that's going to be very authentic and hitting me like in the moment I'm here. And I just hope you guys like it. So let's see. So again, the show is not about hacks. It's not about superpowers or anything like that, or just lucky and here's how rich I am. It's about, dude, this person went through it. They went through it, or they had this crazy moment where they're like, I have to make a change, and here's how it turned out. Because nobody really wants to go, oh man, that person's just getting clobbered, because that's not very fun. But I don't think anybody just wants to hear, wow, I'm so amazing, because it's not as tangible when you're not there or not close to it, right? There has to be a happy medium. And that silver lining, that moment of the bet, is where the change or the big blow up happened. And if we don't understand that, I feel like we're just kind of are missing the story. So this is about the story. No hype, no hacks, truth. It's also about the climb. It's about scaling that mountain without a rope and going, if I don't do this, I am literally dead. If I let go now, I'm dead. And your hands are trembling each time you try to grab something. You're slipping. You're freaking out. You're like, what the hell am I doing here? Why did I think this would be a good idea? You know, like in the Airbnb space with my students, we talk about the messy middle. And it's that moment right after you buy the property, you just drop tens of thousands of dollars on a property, and you're like, woo, I did it. And then you're like, oh, wait, no, I didn't. I still have to rehab. I have to design it. I have to set it up. And then months later, right before you're launching, you're spending another 20 grand, 30 grand on design and amenities. And you're having issues with contractors. And you're like, this was stupid. Everybody told me not to do this. I shouldn't be doing this. And then you get your first booking and you're like, oh, okay. After dropping $50,000 to $100,000, you get one booking for $1 to $10 grand, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm good. And it's not that it's, even if it was $500, it's that moment that you've built a business that has created demand that you go, oh, I can breathe again. I got a chance. And that's what's special about what we do. And we don't capture people in their moment. It's not that special. But if you just hear, hey, here's how I made another property do $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. It's great. It's cool. I want to do that too. But to get there requires massive change. And we're just going to keep hitting on what that is as the bet. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about where I climbed from, because it was a hell of a climb. Yes, I built my life in real estate, but it wasn't always real estate. For me, it was like 30 years of programming that I wasn't good enough, and pain and screw ups, lawsuits, theft, drive-bys. It wasn't great. And I laugh about it because that's my defensive thing, right? And honestly, I guess I've dealt with it enough times, but it was in those moments though, it just felt like hell. It just felt like, I remember when we counted up how many times we've been robbed or had our car stolen or radio stolen out of a car, back when you would steal radios. I don't even know if people do that anymore. But one morning I went out to my mom's car before school. I dropped my bag in it. And I come back in. I'm sitting in front of the window watching TV, waiting for her to come out to go to school. 2 minutes later, we walk out. The radio's gone. And this is how you know you've been through it enough times. I looked around after we realized it was gone. My mom's yelling. She's like, son of a bitch, they got us again. I'm like, I just started clapping because I was so impressed. I was like, I don't know how in the last 2 minutes, me pretty much looking out at half the car through the window, you got this, and I didn't even see you. And I was just so impressed. But that's how you've been through it, right? But Anyway, that kind of is what led up to this constant feeling of the nonstop junk kicking third of my life that I've lived. Probably more like a quarter, but anyway, you get the point. I think it was like 27 when I feel like things really started to change. So yeah, grew up in Detroit, not around in. Single parent mom. I was the oldest boy in the house. My little brother was, 9 years apart, and we were kind of always looking over our shoulder, always trying to lock up. Not sure what was going to happen. Invited a friend over for dinner one time, and he stole money out of our dresser. We questioned about it. Got a drive-by on our house the next day by his big brother. That's the kind of shit. We're like, we got robbed, and now we're getting shot at because we got robbed, and we said, "Hey, dude, did you steal from us?" That's the quality of events that leads to so much pain and like expectation that this must be just where I deserve to be, because it was just so freaking consistent. And ironically, my dad was in California. That's where my dad and mom met. And when I was out there, I didn't really know it growing up, but I always thought he was wealthy. He wasn't. But he was in the recording industry, and he had wealthy moments where it was great month, feast or famine type of stuff. And he worked with some celebrities and, musicians that were kind of pretty damn well known. And it was cool because I'd be out there and we'd be at his friend's house, and who's living next to him? Or I see walking by. Oh, that's Shaquille O'Neal. His neighbor, my dad's friend's neighbor, Shaquille O'Neal. That's pretty cool. And back then I was a puny little kid, right? I was like seeing that monster, like in the best of ways, just a huge human. That was cool. And then actually I won a top producer award at Quicken. And they flew us down to Florida and Miami, and we're out there having a good time. And this is late 20s, I think. And we're definitely drank too much. We're at this club, Live or something like that. And I'm definitely toasted. I'm like, fist pumping back when you used to do that type of thing on a couch. And I look to my right, and there's Shaquille O'Neal, still taller than me, while I'm standing on a couch. And he's like, "Hey, little man," and in that deep voice. And I was like, dude, I haven't seen this guy in, I guess, 20 years. And of course I'd expect him to remember me, but it was just so funny. Like, I saw you in the driveway. Now I'm at a club next to Shaq, and I get a, "Hey, little man." Like, that was kind of cool. But what I'm trying to talk about is the polarity of the different vibes of communities I was in. I actually used to believe if you live in California, you make more money. I actually thought that as a kid, because when I was in Detroit, that's all I saw. And I was like, everybody who lives around here is pretty broke, pretty unhappy. I was in California, didn't seem like everybody was broke. Everybody seemed pretty happy. Maybe not genuinely, but they seemed it. And that was just kind of one of those weird things that, you start programming your mind as you grow from a kid to a young adult to a college person to a new professional graduate. And you're trying to figure out who you are, what you are, how well you're going to do, and who you're going to do it with if you're going to want to get married. It was a very interesting combination of worlds I was dealing with. But because of that, it made me stay sharp, made me kind of pay attention a lot more to what's going on when I'm in a rough spot or wherever. And it also made me go, maybe there's some hope in me. And I think that what I want this series to do is also identify the pain, learn how to manage your pains and worries. But we got to figure out how to add hope too. Like, how do you create hope? Because so what if you just get great at going, I'm okay. Because we did that for years too. Like, I'm hurting, but I'm okay. But if you lose hope and things to believe in and move forward toward, you get stuck too. You have to have hope. Without hope, your life feels pretty meaningless and hopeless. You have to have that. There was a movie, Flight of the Phoenix, and I think they crash landed in the desert, and they were like just trying to figure out, how do we get out of this situation? We got limited resources, little water, and they're just beating each other up trying to figure out how do we do this? Everybody's mad and frustrated, and at one point, one of the guys asked him, like, "What do we do?" And he was like, Give them something to do. And if you don't have something to do, give them something to hope for. And if you can't do that, at least give them something to believe in. And I think what they were pitching was, we don't even know if this is going to happen. We're gonna hope that if we create this scenario, we fix this and do X, Y, Z, we'll get out of the situation. So let's give something to do, something to hope for, something to believe in. And I think that that's such a necessary part of the entrepreneur journey. You have to continuously do that. You have to look at what are those things that can be done to get me ahead. And it's funny because I also come from the other side where, as a real estate broker, I saw so many agents come toward us and get their licenses, and they watch HGTV and they think they're going to hit it. And it's painful. It's kind of painful as a broker. Like, you go, damn, like I'm happy for you. You got your testing done. What will you do next though? Will you actually bring the entrepreneurial spirit, or do you think it's just going to land there on your lap in a tied up box you get to unwrap, and you just made a nice commission? And it's insane how common that is. I'd say, no joke, probably 18 out of 20 new agents are like that. It is bad, maybe even higher. Most agents don't perform, and in this market, even more so. It's a tough market, real tough. Going back to this whole growing up thing and the kind of process of the junk kicking, in some respects, if you say, hey, I'm from Detroit, it's like a badge of honor. But I kind of hate that badge too. It's like, it's bittersweet. You're like, hey, I got some grit. That's the best thing that comes out of it. You definitely come out knowing what you don't want to deal with anymore. It's probably the best thing. But to get that badge requires a lot, and that's not something I'm proud of. Like, it requires dealing with people and things and situations that are ugly, and I don't wish that on anybody. I really don't. And on top of that, my family was very prone to cancer. So every month there's like, we were getting robbed, somebody was dying, somebody got cancer, somebody else got cancer. It just seemed like a lot. And that wasn't really happening as much in California. I'm like, maybe if I just move there, life is better, is what I actually just kept believing. So, and as for school, as we started getting out of the Detroit public schools, I actually got accepted on a scholarship, not because I'm smart, but because I was financially needy. My mom registered me at U of D high school, and I went there. I was pretty against it at first. No offense to anybody, but this is kind of plays into what it's like growing up, at least then, right? I actually was worried that if I went to U of D high school, which was an all boys school, I'd never really heard of this. I was like, shit, is it going to make me gay? Because being gay became such a weird thing. Now, being gay is freaking very normal. It's fine. Like, don't got gay friends and all of that, right? But that was a worry as a heterosexual young boy, and that was just a weird moment for me. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I went there and I made some of the best friends of my life. That school kicked my butt, made me pretty damn good at getting through tough schooling. It was way tougher than what I was going through. And then I went to U of M, and U of M was not really hard after UD, honestly. I was back and forth trying to work through the whole time. Got into a pretty bad accident. Totaled my car. Car would not pay out for the gap insurance. They refused, so I was screwed. So I had to ride a bike to work. And I was riding a bike to work, and while I'm riding my bike, I'm getting rained on. I show up, rained on. My boss is like, "Why are you rained on?" I'm like, "Because I'm still dealing with my car issue where it hasn't paid out." And they're like, "Well, you're fired for being out of uniform." I'm like, "Yep, there's that junk kicking again." Cool. Felt defeated. Drove my bike home back in the rain, fired, and just was like, "Dude, this can't be real anymore. I hate this. And all of these moments, they come back flooding into my head when right now, but when things aren't going well, I go, well, you better go harder than what you've been going, or you better try it better, because you never want to go back to that. And that's what how you know you touched rock bottom, right? When you know, I don't care how I got to get there, I'm not going back to that, and I'm gonna do it legally. That's also a big benefit. Do it legally. And so as I was wrapping up college, after losing my job, I had to go back to renting my buddy's couch. I was paying him like I was supposed to be paying him $300 a month to stay on his couch, and I pretty much had to lie. It was the first time I had to lie about not having an ability to pay somebody, and that was a shitty feeling because it's I've always been a very honest person, but that I just didn't know. I just said I'm gonna get you, and maybe it wasn't a lie. It was probably more of a I don't have it now, but the responsibility never left my mind. I was like, I got to pay this debt. I got to pay this debt. And I had to buy a car from an auction for like $400 or $600 or something. It was an Aurora. Had to learn on YouTube back when YouTube was starting to pick up how to fix it up by hand with my uncle. Sold it later for like $2,000. So that was kind of cool. Made some profit. That was nothing compared to how much energy and hours we put into it. But all that kind of led to, okay, when you take things in your own hands, you get a little bit further. Finished up college and got a job at Chrysler Financial. At Chrysler Financial, we were doing like auto loans for cars. And in the training, I did pretty well. And my boss, Mike, I gave some recommendations for training to kind of make the testing better. And he goes, "Why do you think like that?" I was like, "I don't know why, but it just makes sense to me. I feel like people would do better on the testing. It'd probably be a little bit more direct and more interesting because it was pretty boring." And I was very bored. I was so bored in that training. And I feel like it didn't need to be that all over the place. So he said, "Hey, write something up. Bring it to me on Monday." And I did. I worked all weekend. I was super excited. Came in Monday. I go to find him, and he's not at his table, his desk. And his boss is, a couple offices down. He goes, "Hey, you looking for Mike?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "He's not in today. You need anything?" I'm like, "I was supposed to show him this thing." And he goes, "Show me." I'm like, "All right, boss. I will show you. Here, boss. This is what I was working on." He goes, "Hey, dude, this is pretty good." I'm like, "Thanks, man. I was pretty excited to share it." Mike and I were talking about this, and they said they're going to implement it. And then Mike comes back in a day or two later, and he said, "Why'd you show my boss? Like, you went over my head." I think that Friday I ended up getting fired for being like 5 or 10 minutes late to work. And I was like, yeah, I'm not stepping out of line anymore. I'm just keeping my head down. This is that junk kicking. It hasn't left me. I'm still stuck, still shitty. I was like, it's time to stay small. Small is better. Don't be a target. I go get a job at Quicken, and training goes well. I really like the trainer. We're having a great conversation. She goes, "Maybe you want to be a part of the training. Maybe you want to help the training." I go, No, I know this pattern. I'm not fucking doing that. You're not gonna get me. I'm gonna stay small." So I refused to work on the training. I gave a couple pointers, and that was it. And I started, it started at like 36,000, annual gross. So it was nothing. Commission eligible, maybe $5,000 more. And it was a junior underwriter position. And I sat there, and I'm getting a feel for it. I feel a little overwhelmed. It's a lot of material to learn. And as we're getting the information, we're learning how to underwrite finances, understand income statements, how to validate credit, make sure that people are viable to pay back a loan if we lend them a few $100,000 to buy a house. That's what that was. This is when my analysis started happening and seeing tax returns of all these people that were, a lot of them were in Michigan, and they were making money as landlords. I'm like, damn, these guys are good. And when I'd ask them for new documents, I was like talking to kind of an idiot sometimes. I was like, "What do you mean you can't upload on email? What do you mean you don't know how to do a fax?" I'm like, "What is it that hard?" I'm like, "How have you built all this wealth, but you can't figure this out?" And that's when that kind of like antagonistic thought came in, where I was like, I think I'm at least as smart as them, right? Maybe smarter. Maybe I can do that one day. That's kind of when it started getting a little bit became more of a thought. And in college, I was a Delta Sig. I was a fraternity guy, and still I was hanging out with those guys a week ago. I got one of their weddings this coming week, actually. And I just Really great experience. Crazy, good and bad, but I'm very happy I did it. Still very close with them. They're at my second daughter's baby shower a few weeks ago. It's just amazing how those guys have grown to be like brothers and uncles to my daughters now. But one thing about pledging in a fraternity is you really learn what putting a hard 8 to 10 weeks of something into something that's an extracurricular or whatever can be. And, it's intentionally designed to be tough and create relationships and something to hold on to, get to know them, have fun, memories. And usually you come out of it with, something that's very gratifying, brotherhood, friendship, forever. Paid for or not, it was worth it. Probably one of the best ROIs I've ever had, actually, if I'm thinking about it. But in all of that, I was at Quicken, and I'm sitting there like, I wish I could get better at this, because there's an associate underwriting position coming up. That's a nice, I think, $20K bump in income. And I was like, man, I would love to get that. And I'm sitting, they do like the shuffle. They would always shuffle the damn seats and cubicles. You'd be sitting by new people every 3 to 6 months. And I was like, why is this so common here? Sometimes every 2 months. I sit next to this person, Vanessa, and she was a senior underwriter. And I'm like, occasionally she saw me just scratching my head looking just dumb. Not knowing, like, how do I fix this? How do I make this person's stuff work, or what do I do next? Because the processes were always changing. There's new underwriting guidelines all the time. Trying to read, government documents to understand rules and regs. It was a lot. But it was actually training me subconsciously to be great at just go out there, figure out an answer, come back and present it as best you could. That's what this job was really training me to do. I don't even think I realized that until now, actually, but she would help me. And eventually I started asking her questions. I feel like annoying sometimes, but after a while, she started going, you know what? You're kind of getting this. You're getting pretty smart. And I go, sweet. Awesome. Maybe there's a chance for me to get this. So I told her, I was like, it's one of my goals. We started getting lunch, hanging out. And before I knew it, she was like, I bet you can become senior underwriter in less than 5 years. And I was like, well, what do you make? And she's like, $150,000, $160,000 a year. I was like, shut up. No freaking way. Because the funny part was, for a minute, those what do you call it? Pyramid not scheme. I guess some of them are schemes, but the whole multi-level marketing. That's what it was. There's one called Primerica that was kind of interesting. I had some friends do well in it. And one of the times I went to go see one of the sessions where they're trying to get more recruits, right? They're like, hey, go test drive a car that you would love to drive. And at the time, it was the Acura TL. I thought it was so cool. That was my dream sporty sedan at the time. Now it's not even on my radar, but when I look at it, I'm reminded of that memory. And I sat there, and I still have it, but I took the person's business card while I was waiting for them to pull it up to let me test drive it. And I said, goals. I want to make $100,000 a year, and I want it to go to this and this and this. I have, this much money for trips every quarter, and it's funny because when I read it now, I'm like, that didn't incorporate any taxes. It's not realistic. But if it was a net, it would have worked, right? But the funny part was that was a moment where dreams and hopes were kind of coming back alive. And sit next to Vanessa and me feeling like I actually have a real relationship, which was kind of like a coach unexpectedly for me. She made me believe in myself again. And me kind of figuring out the job and doing better and better and making friends with some of the higher ups, the directors and leaders. And I was like, maybe I do have a shot at this thing. And I finally started to have hope again. And I think the culture of the company was it was particularly good. It was particularly good at that time. I think it got worse, but my opinion. And as we kept going, I started to figure things out faster. And I was like, what am I doing? I should do this even faster. So I started taking my files home with me, more or less. I started studying it. I said, let me treat this like pledging. Let me like get, in my extracurricular time, let me see how I can make my decisions faster. How can I analyze these things better? And it's funny because as I'm saying this makes so much sense why I eventually built the software. I'm building a software right now called InVenture AI, which is supposed to help you analyze real estate deals in seconds, not even a minute, but seconds. And this is a lot of where that came from, because I started learning appraisals and how do you know, value this property is greater or less than your subject property, things like that. So all those things and the thousands of appraisals we reviewed all got stuck in my head. Like, how do you make faster decisions? How do you quantify with logic? And how do you explain that to other people to also make it make sense? Especially when the data is kind of open to interpretation. It's funny. It's all hit me. Like, this is how my no data method became a thing. All that experience. If I didn't have that job, I don't think I would even be close to here. But anyway, in that pledging and that, hey, I'm going to give it 8 to 10 weeks of, I'm just going to try and catch up to Vanessa. It's V. I call her V a lot. And sure as hell I did. I caught up quick. She's still better than I was, but I was fast. I was very fast. I think growing up playing video games helped. So when your kids are playing video games, don't give them too much crap, because they might end up being very fast coders or developers of software. You never know. Give them a shot. But as I did that, I got called in the office to get promoted to an associate, and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. I think it like pretty much doubled my income. I think it took me like 70, 80. And I was like, this is so cool. And I got good at associate real quick, because I said, I'm going to go back to my pledging thoughts. And I got good real quick. And after that, they said, hey, you might be eligible for full underwriter within the year. And I said, hold my beer, man. I'm going to do it in less than a year. And I sure as shit did. And before I knew it, I've hit a month where I think we did like, or with commissions and everything, I hit like 8,000 or 9,000 on a check. And I was like, I am officially pacing for 6 figures. And when I wrote on that business card when I was at the Acura dealership, the $100,000 goal, that goal was expected in 10 plus years. I just did it within a year of that visit. There's something about writing down your goal and working toward it, believing and having hope again, that made it possible for me to get here. And it was a very exciting moment. And shortly after, I got promoted to leadership and started moving around the company and doing pretty dang well. And before I knew it, I was doing over $250,000 a year. And I was like, this is great. But that wasn't it. I don't know if I'm going to go that deep into it, but I'll say, as I started making that money and putting in almost 70 hours a week, almost 7 days a week, I was exhausted. I started getting weird thoughts. When I would go out with my friends on a Friday or Saturday night, I'd go, shit, I got to not work tonight. Why do I feel like going to see friends and family is taking away time? I remember specifically saying, I won't make it tonight, but don't worry, I'll get you a gift. And I was like, whoa, who am I becoming? I became so, you put somebody that's been broke their whole life and you give them a chance to make really good money. It comes at a cost. And the cost was like, it was changing my pattern of thoughts, my value systems. And I loved making the money. I was paid off all my college debt. I felt great. Paid off my car. Got a new car. Got a couple new cars. Got a Corvette at the time, and I was freaking loved that. Side note, what was cool about that was, A, it was fun, but B, it helped release this need to have a cool car, because I've always thought, I want this. It seems unattainable. I only had it for 2 years. Sold it with hardly any loss of value, which was pretty great. But it helped me go, oh, sweet, I've had this. I don't have that incredible need or desire. And then I was able to focus back on buying houses. I bought another house. With that, I got, I think, 10 grand back from the sale. I did that twice with 2 Corvettes now, actually. Bought a house after selling it. And I guess what I'm saying is, like, this one day I was walking back from lunch. I'm staring at these buildings, walking downtown Detroit, just like, I'm going to be here for like 10 to 20 more years. And I was so bummed. I was like, what a first world problem, dude. Like, oh no, $250,000 a year. Man, maybe not. Maybe it would have dropped down because it was kind of feast time. And I think it could have probably stayed at six figures plus. I don't think it was going to always stay that way based on what I'm hearing now. But I hated the idea of being in that building for another 10 years. Hated it. I was depressed. I walked in that building depressed. And I realized this isn't going to work. And every time I thought about investing in real estate, I kept going, nah, it's not for me. And I was like, dude, look how much you figured out. What the hell? How many more proofs of you getting further along or trying something do you need before you just say, I can figure this out. I can do this. And it just took so many obvious moments. I was like, what the hell are you doing? So I said, all right, it's time to start. So we started working on it. And I was like, I don't know if I have enough down payment money. How am I going to do this? I talked to my friend that was kind of interested in, I didn't know he was interested in real estate. I just tell him what I was thinking. Put it out in the ethos, as they put it. And he goes, dude, I'll invest with you. I go, that cuts my payment down pretty considerably. So let's try it. We bought it. And I wanted to be a good partner. And I was like, I want to quadruple check my numbers and, share why I think I was going to do well. And because I was responsible to him getting a return, I needed to make sure I executed. And so I tried doing rehab on my own. Stupid. So stupid. If you don't want to become a rehabber, do not start, because it was good. It was good to get the experience, right? And the experience told me I'm pretty freaking slow and I'm a perfectionist. And the timeline it took versus just hiring it wasn't worth my time. It just was stupid. But again, there's a value to learning everything once. So I learned it. I tried a few different things in less and more focused aspects in the future, but it's not for me. I don't do rehab anymore. I'll do like simple, fixture swaps, and that's about it now. TV mounting. That's it. But anyway, we did one. It did well. He goes, hey, I would do another one. I'm like, I don't have enough money. He goes, how about this? I'll put in more money. You pay me back. I'm like, sweet. And that's what happened. Like, by opening myself up to the possibility that a partner, I didn't even know I was doing that to open my mind up to a partner. But it happened because I just talked about it and they said they're willing to, before I even asked, before I even thought it was worth asking. And so much of the rest of my life has happened like that. You put it out there. If you're going to be honest and work hard and do it for them as well, because you want them to get a win with you, it worked out like 85% of the time. And that 15 doesn't mean it was bad. Some were losses, some were break evens, all were lessons. And in the grand scheme, I am absolutely positive on all those. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the direction I was heading, coming from Quicken and feeling depressed looking at a $250,000 a year job. But that's what it was. It wasn't me choosing how to be. I still felt subservient. I felt, yes, sir. What else can I get for you, sir? Yes, ma'am. Whatever. What can I do? Your boss. Even though I was a leader, you become still a cog in the machine where somebody else is still your boss. Unless you own the damn thing. And I did a lot of things to improve at that company. And there's a point where a lot of us got fired, including me, for reasons no one else has been written up for. And I kind of was like, son of a gun. This is the world that we're in, where you can bust your ass. If people want to cut the fat, and we were pretty fat, they'll do it. And they did it. And the top, I think 19 out of 20 that were really top producers, pretty much all lost their job in like 3 to 6 months. So that was a moment where I was like, damn, I don't know that I want to be in a big company even when it is paying me. So I guess, it's been almost an hour. There's more to this story, and I'll give you a couple more before I end it, because I feel like I don't want it to feel incomplete. But I took a new job at United Wholesale Mortgage, went on as a trainer, immediately realized after being sworn to that it's a way better culture fit over there. You're going to love it. I was like, I do not love this. I do not like it. A lot of sharp people. I liked kind of what the company was doing, but I did not like how I came in. I came in as the first new trainer after the trainer that's been doing it for over a decade. And lo and behold, you're not as good as us. I'm like, no kidding. You had one trainer. And at the end of the day, I was just like, you know what? I didn't care. You're right. She is better. She is objectively, subjectively, she is better. And it's going to take me a minute to catch up because I haven't even learned your system yet. And as I was there, I got an offer to go make more money at another company that was about to launch their mortgage company. They said, come on, help us build it. I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. And it came with a couple extra perks. I took the interview. I liked it. I liked the people. I liked that it was fast growing. It was kind of unique. They're like, I want your thoughts. You build it. You call it. I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds great. It was me realizing I wanted more control in my life. Subconsciously, I would say. And as I got in that job, week one, I started realizing there's going to be some problems here. And those problems started with, hey, we're not like quite ready for you to build the mortgage side. Problem two was we're doing cash advances. And we might need you to run cash advances right now. It's like, okay, I guess I'm here. So shit, here we go. So I start running the cash advances. I start realizing we're, for lack of better terms, we're targeting seniors, we're targeting veterans, and we're not giving them loans. We're giving them cash advances against their benefits, their VA benefits. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, what's it cost? I'm like, oh, they wanted $1,000. What's the repayment? 9 to 10 grand. I'm like, that's pretty freaking steep. So they were pledging their future payments of their benefit. And I go, this is pretty nasty. I don't like this. And I started listening to the phone calls from my sales reps. And I was like, we're teaching what? Oh, wait a minute. What are our rules? What are our questions for? You can't have had HIV or cancer. You can't be black and over 60. Who wrote this? This is illegal. How are we doing this? And I started questioning things. And my first boss goes, wow, that's really great. Let me send this up to our higher ups. The boss, Nathan? Yeah, I said it. But he goes, delete this email. I'm like, digital doesn't really delete so well, but sure, I'll delete it and don't bring it up again. And I was like, yeah, this is not what I want to be doing. And one time this VA holder calls and says, I can't make my payment this month or I'm going to starve. And I go, then don't. And he goes, are you serious? I was like, if you can't make it, you can't make it. And then I got written up for telling him to not make payments by my boss. And I didn't really care because I was like, we're already like robbing these guys. And I hate that. Like I kept trying to find ways to legitimize and improve the company because there were some things that they did that were actually legal, maybe not great returns not great for the person, but I was like, we can do this. This can be done legally. What they were doing was illegal. And they eventually got shut down by the FBI. And I got fired before that because I made a new rule change across the board in the underwriting that would be more helpful to clients and less helpful to the business. Well, it could have been helpful to the business too, I guess. That was part of the intent. But we would have to see how it played out. But I got fired too soon to find out. So it was that moment that I said, okay, no more six-figure jobs. The rentals are going well. I had gotten my real estate license while working at United. And I was starting to get some sales done. I said, this year, I'm just going to do it. I had the Corvette at that time. I was like, I'm going to sell this. That's it. I sold it. Stabilized my world. I think I made like 30, 40 grand my first year working alone. And it was one of my most proud years of my life. Because I did it on my terms. I showed that I might be broke. I was so broke. Oh my God. But I did it. And I'm glad because part of the reason I was able to do that is because I bought a 4-bedroom house while I was working at Quicken. And I rented out 3 of those rooms. And people were like, that's stupid. You make too much money to do that. What a loser. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm a loser. I've got my mortgage paid for. I feel pretty freaking good about it. I feel safe. And I don't rent those rooms out anymore. Although sometimes I miss that because I think 5 of the 6 roommates we ended up having ended up standing in our wedding years later. Ended up becoming some of the best friends I ever made. Built really good relationships. And it was special. And, you know, for anybody that's worried about putting on a show about room hacking, fuck that. It's really stupid. It's really, really fucking dumb. Do it. Because it's a hard hard life to get ahead of these days. And you can't do it unless you take some things and you do some things a little smarter, and you got to eat a few less, meals out. Maybe you got to split your house with somebody, but if you're too damn proud to do that, then stay broke. You're paying for that convenience, and that's fine. And maybe it's not really just that. Maybe you don't really need it, but God, did it help, man. It really helped. It changed a lot of things. I told some other people to do it. Most people don't take my advice, but the ones that did, they're getting ahead. And because I had that money saved to then apply toward investing, it helped me invest. So people are like, "Oh, you only got ahead because you're making $250,000 a year." I was like, I got ahead when I bought my house and said I'm willing to live with some more people to offset that cost, and that made it easier to take some of those risks. And you have to be willing to do that. You don't need a bunch of empty space for one person. You don't. 1,000 square feet is plenty. I've said even if I bet it all and it all went away, I'll go rent an apartment, sell all my crap. But that's kind of what the entrepreneurial bet has to be. You have to be so sure that you can get somewhere and grow something, or at least highly confident it has a good shot and it will be worthwhile. Some people do entrepreneurial things because they think it's just cool, but they don't actually think about how it's going to run long term. That's something we could talk about in another episode. But my whole point in all of this is sometimes you got to eat a cookie, and sometimes the shit cookie. And sometimes you got to try some things that are uncomfortable or kind of considered lame. But who really cares if 5-10 years later you're rich or wealthy or way better than your friends financially and they're still struggling? It's not about like just being better than somebody. It's about giving yourself a shot without worry about who's looking at you doing what. That's way better. And trust me, those same friends come up to me and go, "Holy shit, look what you built." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I've been telling you to do it too." I got a couple of friends that have just made so much money, they've blown it, and then they don't do any of the investing I recommended, and they're still paying 30% tax. I'm just like, what are you doing, dude? How much more knowledge or ability do you have or need before you do something that's actually going to get you ahead? The tax code is not hidden. It's not a secret. There's a lot of ways the government incentivizes you to hold real estate, to double down on America. I'm not a super patriot person. I do appreciate my country. I struggle with some things in my country. But the tax code, if you read it, it's a cheat code. And however you want to look at it, it can help you get ahead or stay behind. If you choose to not read it, you're choosing to stay behind. It's really ignorant. You don't have to be great at it, but at least get a CPA that's pretty damn good at it. And you don't have to spend a lot to do that. So anyway, I just want to share these thoughts. I got so much I could share with you guys, but I got to start wrapping this episode up. You don't have to be stuck thinking about how am I going to survive or get ahead. You can be focused on how you can build. And there's a lot of ways to do that. And we'll hit on that later. That's more course stuff than it is podcast. But there's so many financing options. There's partnership options. And it starts with creating an idea that you believe in, that you will choose to be responsible and execute on, sharing that in the ethos, the world, your circle. Change your world of who you hang out with, because if they're self-depreciating people or they're just kind of stuck, doesn't mean you don't love them, doesn't mean you don't want the best for them, but it might mean you just kind of get into a new lane. You got to get 2 degrees off from your current path. And before you know it, you could be doing really, really well. And 6 months from now, you're a different person. You're making different decisions. You're changing. You're becoming, it's a lame analogy, but the caterpillar to the butterfly. Like, I don't even know if a caterpillar knows it's going to be able to fly one day. But what if you did? What if you knew one day you're going to go in your cocoon, you're going to drown out the noise, lock yourself in your room, you're going to become a badass. You're going to come out like, oh, look at these sweet wings, man. And you're just going to flapping away into the sunset. Hopefully a bird doesn't eat you. But that could be your life. This person that you didn't know you could fly this whole time, but you've been too afraid to go get in your cocoon and grow. That's the best analogy I could do right now. I hope you liked it. Just watch out for the birds, man. They are your predator. And that's the end. That's what the show is about. figuring out how you can build. How do you get to that point to be in the right mindset, capacity, all the questions, the what the F's do I do now? How the F can I do this? It's all there. You just got to be in the right circle. If you're not, start by changing it incrementally. Climb up on that branch, make a cocoon, start flying. This is for the people that have to unlearn survival and learn ownership, growth. This is that moment where you realize you don't have to play small. You don't have to be small. You don't have to be the NPC. You can be pretty damn cool. And you know, it's funny, like sometimes I get shy now. There's a time, because my family was a relative that was quite an actress. And I think it's funny, you know, you see fame, you see fortune, maybe growing up, especially my generation. And you go, I want to be big, you know, like, and that was always around me. So I kind of wanted that. It seemed like, oh, fame and money. That sounds cool. Hell yeah. And Jim Carrey's talked about it. Will Smith has talked about it, where you become so great at what you do. You achieve all your goals. You achieve all the things you've wanted in life. And they want that for you. Jim Carrey says, I want that for you. Will Smith says, I want that for you. And he says, because once you get there, you realize that's not what it's about. So what if you make it? It's about that journey. It's about finding out that all the wealth, all the fun toys, the gimmicks, there's something more to that. The bet is why it's so important. That change to either create those outcomes or learn how to be in that venue to understand that you can hit this top peak and realize there's still more to it. That's not more wealth, it's more value, and having the authentic conversations. Because it won't be the Ferrari, it won't be the Corvette, it won't be the house in the Hamptons or in the Palisades. Whatever it is, it's got to be something that gives you drive, makes you feel alive. And I think that that's what we do well. So I'm hoping to share those stories of other entrepreneurs going through there. I need to make a bet on myself. I need to change the core of who I am and what I've been doing so I can become the thing I've wondered if I could exist as. Not a bet out of luck, a bet out of effort, a bet of identity, a bet of belief, of doing, of hoping. We're going to talk about how to grow things that last, from real estate to systems to business to mindset. Anyway, I'm Matt. This is The Bet. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, share it if you have a chance, and I hope to catch you in the next episode. Take care.